New Japan Pro Wrestling is staging a resurgence for live events in the United States. I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm Chris Charlton. Kevin Kelly's with me. This is NJPW World now. And Kevin, it's been something the fans have been talking about for weeks, for months, as the situation in the United States has steadily improved in relation to COVID. When can we get fans to a live New Japan Pro Wrestling event? Now we know August 14th in LA and in a very famous venue, Kevin.
Yeah, the LA Coliseum, right outside the Coliseum, will be the so it's an outdoor event, an outdoor venue, and you, in terms of sporting history, not just in America but all around the world. I mean, the LA Memorial Coliseum, the site of the Olympics, so many great football games have been played there throughout the years, and now it's going to host New Japan Pro Wrestling, and the U.S. Fans, I think, are going to be so excited to have New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've been seeing it each and every week on Strong, and now we're going to get to see a lot of our favorites live on August the 14th.
Yeah, from just what I've seen of what the Torch LA Coliseum looks like, it's an amazing kind of setup. You're going to be right under the arches in the open night sky. It's going to be a phenomenal event. And just as the release came out, it couldn't have put it better. There's an appropriate roster for the appropriate occasion and the appropriate venue. And there's so many amazing names that have already been announced. Of course, the full match card will be announced in due course. But what we do know, Strong's Openweight champion, Filthy Tom Lawlor, the never Openweight champion, Switchblade Jay White, and the IWGP United States Heavyweight champion, Jon Moxley, all will be at Resurgence. And then you've got more names besides one name here that I don't know whether you've seen the list yet, Kevin, but this certainly popped out in front of me when I saw the text in my old email inbox. One Shota Umino will be wrestling at Resurgence for the first time we've seen him since all the way back in that Young Lion Cup in September 2019.
Just, again, there is so much pent-up energy with wrestling fans all around the world. And as news has come about, as Major League Baseball has begun to open their stadiums fully all across the country, and each time it's like, when? Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling going to have fans, and when you look at the lineup, whatever it can be, when you have that level of stardom of the Strong Openweight champion, with Jon Moxley appearing, and with Shota Umino continuing his trajectory in his professional wrestling career, it's going to be very exciting. I can tell you another name that I know is going to be chomping at the bit to get out there is Fred Rosser. I got a feeling that Mr. No Days Off is going to be working even harder, getting ready for August 14th. And obviously, Filthy Tom Lawlor and the situation involving the Strong Openweight Championship. Nothing is guaranteed that he'll still be the champion when we get to the LA Coliseum, but I've got a feeling that he and Team Filthy will be a huge part of the festivities.
Sure, I mean, Filthy Tom Lawlor has got many a match and to come in the intervening weeks, and I want to talk about that in just a little bit, but just some of the other names here. We've got, of course, David Finlay, Juice Robinson, a lot of the names you're familiar with competing on Strong every week as well. And here's another new name, or another new pair of names. Or really, are they new or are they familiar? This broke over the weekend. Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, the Good Brothers, will be back in New Japan Pro Wrestling for the first time in 5.5 years. This is a real event, and when the boys are involved, there's a lot of intrigue about where they will fit in the current landscape in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Again, this is a time like no other. It's exciting to know that Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows are going to be part of this whole thing. And there's a lot of interest, Chris, in tag teams right now on Strong. And I'm really excited to see where things go as we head to the LA Coliseum.
That's exactly right, because that was also announced this week on Strong. Tag Team Turbulence is coming in the month of July on Strong Friday nights, 10/9 Central on njpwworld.com. 8 teams, a killer lineup. Right at the top of that list are, of course, the Good Brothers making their return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. But we also have, of course, the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Isaacson Nelson, Yuji Nagata coming back to Strong, along with Ren Narita, the DKC and Kevin Knight, Clark Connors and TJP, Fred Yehai and Wheeler Yuta, who really impressed on their debut fairly recently. We've got Brody King and Chris Dickinson, JR Kratos and Danny Limelight as well. Just a real stacked lineup for July. You can't take your eyes off the tag teams on NJPW Strong.
It's going to be very competitive to see who can win Tag Team Turbulence. I think that a lot of votes will probably go with the Good Brothers because of their championship pedigree, their history in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You cannot sleep on Brody King and Chris Dickinson as Violence Unlimited. And the sleeper team for me, Fred Yehai and Wheeler Yuta. I think that a lot of people, if they're seeing them for the first time as a team on Strong, you're going to see a different feel of a team. Wheeler Yuta, of course, you've seen him on Ring of Honor most recently. But with Fred as his partner, it's like he comes alive like never before. TJP and Clark Connors are going to be problematic. You cannot take anything away from Yuji Nagata, Ren Narita. It's a pick'em. It is a pick'em who's going to win this thing.
And just how intense all of that competition is all the way around on NJPW Strong. Of course, this week's episode was really probably one of my favorite episodes to date of Strong, and as I was getting ready to record Finish Strong this week, it was just a week full of bangers. Of course, when you think about Adrian Quest and Fred Rosso made a phenomenal team in their own right against Bateman and Barrett Brown. Of course, Bateman and Barrett Brown coming up with the victory. Satoshi Kojima beating JR Kratos and then making his own allusions backstage to perhaps he is very well aware of Filthy Tom Lawlor and might throw his own hat into that championship ring. And then how good was Josh Alexander and Alex Coughlin to kick off this week?
Alex Coughlin said he wanted challengers. He wanted to take on the biggest, the baddest, the best. Bring them on, line them up. Josh Alexander's name called first. The walking weapon was every bit as intense as we've known him to be. We've seen him on Impact Wrestling and now competing on New Japan Strong. He's fantastic. Alex has a bright, bright future. And Strong continues to be a lot of people's favorite wrestling show each and every week in a crowded landscape right now with a lot of good wrestling on television. Strong just continues to knock it out of the park, Chris.
And who will be representing that brand as Strong Openweight Championship at the Torch in LA Coliseum on August the 14th? Perhaps it could be one of Filthy Tom Lawlor or Karl Fredricks on June 25th on NJPW Strong in the main event of Ignition. Where do you see this match going, and the Shibataist stylings of Karl Fredricks against one of perhaps the most proficient submission fighters in the game in Filthy Tom Lawlor?
And we can't discount that Filthy Tom Lawlor has studied Katsuyori Shibata a lot as well. He tries to ape some of the mannerisms of Shibata, trying to get under Fredericks' skin. And I think that's going to be the key, how Karl can manage his emotions in a big spot. He won the Young Lion Cup when not a lot of people thought he would, and coming all the way back and having to play this patient waiting game. The Alpha Wolf is ready. I lean as a favorite towards the champion, but Karl Fredricks is going to do everything he can to make sure that Filthy Tom Lawlor no longer represents New Japan Strong.
Of course, so do not take your eyes off of NJPW Strong every Friday night, 10/9 Central on njpwworld.com. And we are now on the road to Resurgence. The Torch at LA Coliseum is the place. The date is August 14th. Tickets go on sale very, very soon. So please do check out njpw1972.com. You do not want to miss your time to finally be there as we welcome fans back in the US. So for Kevin Kelly, I'm Chris Charlton. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Gokigenyo. Sayonara.